My dad worked on a farm, and he was a musician. Dad's band played on the radio. Yeah, he was good. He still is. He shared with me recently about how, during the many hours in the saddle of that tractor, plowing the fields, his mind would wander, thinking of the music that his band would be playing on that radio show. He said as he drove, the songs played over and over in his mind. He was so focused on the music, he essentially forgot about driving the tractor. That's kind of scary. But at the end of the day, he found that the rows that his tractor had carved in the field were perfectly straight. The turns that he needed to make just before reaching the ditch at the end of those rows were perfectly timed. It was like something else took over while he was driving. Does that relate to our experience riding long journeys on our motorcycles? You know, I think so. So to quote a line from an old country song, let's take a little trip and never leave the farm. Recorded in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. Welcome to Peace Love Moto, the podcast for motorcyclists seeking that peaceful, easy feeling as we cruise through this life together. Are you ready? Let's go! When I meet someone for the first time, I usually don't ask, "What do you do?" Now, you may be a doctor or a pilot or a homemaker, and that's all great. But instead of asking, "What do you do?" I like to ask, "What do you do for fun?" Because my hope is always that you're going to say, "I ride a motorcycle," and boom, you're my new best friend. Well, you understand. It's just instantly something we have in common to talk about, right? It's a shared experience. It's the same thing probably happens to people passionate about sailing or golf or cooking. Oh, you sail? Me too. So let's go get a coffee. Let's talk about sailing. And it's interesting that in so many conversations with people I've just met, our love for riding drifts into why we love to ride and what riding does for us. Now, not all conversations about motorcycling go this deep, but that's where we're going this week. We're going for a ride, maybe into a virtual world. This world inside our helmets, inside our imaginations when we ride. I hope you're ready for this. For that matter, I hope I'm ready for this. There was a young lady who was gifted at playing the piano. She was fantastic. She poured her heart and soul into it. She practiced alone for hour upon hour. In front of her teacher, she played at that same top level. Such beautiful music, just flawless. She was completely lost in the sound, fully immersed in what she was doing. She was so happy when she played. Now, when she played in front of her family, that was different. She felt a little bit distracted. She wanted them to be proud of her. So she made a few mistakes. And she worked her way through it, but she could never play as flawlessly as she played alone. So in front of an audience, well, that just wasn't going to happen. She knew that she'd be paralyzed with fear, so she refused to perform in front of an audience. She was convinced that her talent, her gift, would never be shared with a live audience because she was paralyzed with fear. It just wasn't going to happen. Her teacher was just heartbroken over that because she knew that not only a small audience needed to hear her perform, but so did the world. After much thought, the teacher gave her student some advice that changed her path of life. The teacher told her student, "Don't play for me. Don't play for your parents. Don't play for anyone. Play and make music for yourself. Play because playing music makes you happy and it makes you feel wonderful." She went on to tell her student, whenever you get invited to play in front of an audience, go and do it. Just go out there and play because it makes you happy. Taking a big chance The teacher scheduled her student to play in front of a large audience in a large concert hall in front of hundreds of people. Moments before it was time for her to go out on stage, out of the view of everyone, the teacher gave her student a hug. She looked into her eyes and she said, Go out there and be happy." The student walked out from behind the curtain, out onto the stage, and the audience erupted with applause. That got her attention, and not in a good way. She intended to look only at the piano, but with that sound, she caught a glimpse of the crowd instead. She saw her teacher, smiling with encouragement. She saw her family sitting in the front row, and then she saw that sea of faces. That paralyzing fear, that nightmare was about to take its grip. But then she remembered what her teacher told her. Playing did make her happy, and she really needed to be happy right then. So she sat down at the piano, and the audience grew silent. She paused, took a deep breath, and she began to play. While she played so beautifully, she smiled. Then the audience disappeared. Moments later, her family disappeared. A little bit later, her teacher disappeared. And as she continued to play with her music filling the room, the piano disappeared, yet her music continued. As her beautiful music seeped through the walls of that auditorium and lifted up into the heavens, she herself disappeared. I share these stories because sometimes I'm convinced that's how we feel out on the bike. That's how I have felt. Sometimes we just kind of need an escape from the busyness of life. So we get out on our motorcycle and we just go for a ride. And after some time, as we cruise along through the country, if the stars align just right, the sounds of the motor just disappear. Then the sounds of the wind disappears. Pure silence. Then after more miles and a little more time, the bike disappears. And it's at that time, all of the burdens of the world disappear. At that very moment, all is right with the world. Just as my dad and the piano student experienced, we have arrived. Peace of mind. And for that, we can be very grateful. Thank you all for listening. I wish you peace. I wish you love.